Have you ever felt it? That deep, unsettling feeling that the world operates on a set of rules you were never taught. You witness acts of kindness go unrewarded, while ruthless ambition carves a path straight to the top. It's a profound injustice, a gnawing question that echoes in the quiet moments of your soul. Is the world fundamentally rigged? Does it truly favor the worst among us? If you've ever pondered this, know that you are not losing your mind. You are beginning to awaken. You are starting to perceive the energetic architecture that lies beneath the surface of society. This perception is a sign of a higher consciousness stirring within you. If this frequency resonates with your spirit, I invite you to join a community of seekers. Acknowledge your awakening by typing "I am awake" in the comments below. Your journey is sacred, and you are not walking it alone. Like this message to signal your alignment, and subscribe to continue exploring the hidden truths of our existence. Imagine for a moment the grand theater of existence. You see a vast stage teeming with souls, each striving, reaching, and yearning for success, for fulfillment, for a taste of their divine potential. Observe them closely. You will see a distinct divide in their energy, in their very approach to life's great quest. Some move with a frequency of integrity. They build, they create, they labor with an unwavering commitment to their inner values. Their path is one of honor, of staying true to a divine blueprint etched upon their hearts. They believe in fairness, in the sacred contract of hard work leading to just rewards. They are the builders, the nurturers, the steady hands that seek to uphold the light. But then, your eyes are drawn to others, moving with a chaotic, disruptive energy. These are the souls who operate from a lower frequency of manipulation, deception, and ego. They do not build, they seize. They do not create, they conquer. They view the world not as a sacred dance of co-creation, but as a battlefield where the only rule is to win, at any cost. They trample over the sacred boundaries of others. They weave webs of lies, and they manipulate the very fabric of trust to propel themselves forward, leaving a wake of spiritual and emotional devastation. And here lies the great paradox, the uncomfortable truth that causes so many noble hearts to despair. It is often these very individuals, the ones who discard their values like worn-out clothes, who ascend the highest peaks of worldly power. They sit on thrones, they command boardrooms, they shape the narratives of nations. They seem to effortlessly climb the ladder of success, while those who play by the rules of fairness and light find themselves struggling, overlooked, and left behind in the dust. This pattern is not an anomaly, it is a feature, deeply woven into the evolutionary code and social structures of our world. It forces us to confront a terrifying question, one that can shake the foundations of our faith. Is morality a weakness? Is adhering to a higher vibrational code a form of spiritual self-sabotage in this game of power? Why does this happen? Is the universe truly so cruel as to be rigged in favor of its most destructive children? The answer is far more complex and profound than a simple yes or no. Look around you, through the annals of history, in the corridors of politics, in the cutthroat world of business. Everywhere, you will find glaring examples of individuals who, despite a complete void where their moral compass should be, have achieved extraordinary heights of power and influence. From the most ruthless emperors of ancient civilizations who built empires on conquest and bloodshed, to the modern-day corporate titans who build fortunes on exploitation and deceit, the pattern repeats with haunting consistency. We are taught to believe in karma, in justice, in the eventual triumph of good. Yet, the evidence so often seems to scream the opposite, suggesting that the path to the top is paved not with good intentions, but with the trampling of them. This harsh reality is not a coincidence. It is not a flaw in the system. It is the system itself, a feature of human nature that has been playing out since the dawn of consciousness. It's a dynamic, deeply embedded in our evolutionary psychology and the very social structures we have built. In a world where resources, whether material, emotional, or spiritual, are perceived as scarce, competition becomes an inevitable force of nature. It is the primal dance of survival. In this dance, those who hesitate, those who pause at every turn to seek fairness, to ensure no one is harmed, often find themselves outmaneuvered. They are the souls who wait for permission, who seek validation from an external world that is itself caught in the throes of this competitive struggle. They find themselves left behind, wondering why their virtue and integrity were not enough. Meanwhile, those who are unburdened by such considerations, those who are willing to exploit, to deceive, and to dominate, they do not hesitate. They see an opening, and they take it. They see a resource, and they claim it. They see a path to power, and they walk it, regardless of who they must push aside. They rise to the top, not because they are inherently better, but because they are uninhibited by the very frequencies that make us truly human: empathy, compassion, and a sense of sacred connection to others. But let us not despair, for this is only one side of a divine and complex equation. There is another paradox at play. While the worst among us often succeed with breathtaking speed in the short term, the chronicles of history are equally filled with the epic stories of their downfall. The same fire of ambition that fuels their ascent often becomes the inferno that consumes them. Their empires, built on foundations of fear and control, are inherently unstable. The trust they betray, the lives they disrupt, the negative energy they generate, it all creates a karmic debt that must, eventually, be paid. So, the question is not just why they rise, but whether their success is sustainable. And more importantly, what does their temporary reign mean for those of us who refuse to abandon our principles, who refuse to lower our vibration to match their game? What is our role in this cosmic drama? To truly grasp this, we must look beyond the surface of good and evil and understand the very nature of power itself. One of the most profound explorations of this comes from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, a soul who dared to gaze into the abyss of human nature. He saw power not as an inherently evil force, but as an undeniable neutral energy of life itself. It is like fire, it can warm a home or burn it to the ground. It is neither good nor bad in itself. Its quality is determined by the consciousness that wields it. To understand why the worst people succeed, we must first understand the two fundamental moral systems that Nietzsche identified as being in constant conflict throughout human history, what he termed master morality and slave morality. For our purposes, let us call them the morality of the sovereign soul and the morality of the collective shadow. Imagine two divine warriors standing upon the battlefield of life. The first warrior embodies the morality of the sovereign soul. He is a creator, a force of nature. His frequency is one of strength, decisiveness, and fearlessness. He does not ask for permission to be powerful. He recognizes power as his divine birthright, an extension of source energy flowing through him. He takes what he wills, not out of malice, but because his will is aligned with the act of creation and expansion. He shapes the world according to his vision. He defines his own values, and he stands as the sole judge of his own actions. He is the master of his own reality. The second warrior embodies the morality of the collective shadow. He is hesitant, his energy is contracted. He is constantly looking outside of himself for validation, for approval, for permission from the collective. He is bound by a system of fairness that he hopes the world will one day recognize and reward. He believes his virtue, his meekness, his willingness to sacrifice himself will eventually be his salvation. He waits for the world to reward him, not realizing that the world he is waiting for is currently being shaped by the first warrior. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that morality itself is not a universal divine truth handed down from on high. Instead, it is a human creation, born from the power struggles between these two types of consciousness. He saw two fundamental moral systems emerging from this eternal conflict. Master morality, the code of the sovereign soul, is the morality of the strong, the rulers, the conquerors, the creators. It is founded on values that amplify life, strength, courage, ambition, and the unapologetic expression of power. To these masters, the concept of good is anything that enhances their ability to dominate their environment, to create new realities, and to assert their will upon the world. They do not seek approval from others. They are the source of their own approval. They define their own worth. They take full responsibility for their destiny, and they view weakness not as something to be pitied or protected, but as an obstacle to be overcome, a resistance to be transmuted into greater strength. Slave morality, or the morality of the collective shadow, stands in stark opposition. It is the moral system born from the experience of the oppressed, the powerless, the weak, those who cannot impose their will directly upon the world. Lacking the strength to conquer, they create a value system that glorifies the very qualities they possess. Instead of celebrating strength, it celebrates humility. Instead of ambition, it praises obedience. Instead of righteous power, it sanctifies self-sacrifice and suffering. It teaches that to be meek is to be blessed, that suffering is noble, and that power itself is inherently evil and corrupting. Nietzsche saw this not as a higher truth, but as a brilliant and necessary psychological adaptation. It was a coping mechanism, a way for those who lacked worldly power to find meaning and worth, and to psychologically survive in a world controlled by the strong. It inverts the values of the masters, turning their strengths into sins and their own weaknesses into virtues. But here is the uncomfortable truth, the great deception that keeps so many good people powerless. The morality of the collective shadow does not prevent the rise of the ruthless. In a profound and tragic irony, it enables it. By condemning ambition, by shaming the pursuit of power, by teaching that it is better to be humble and passive than strong and assertive, it creates a massive power vacuum in the world. It effectively convinces the most virtuous, compassionate, and empathetic souls to voluntarily step away from the levers of control. It leaves the field of power wide open, undefended, ready to be seized by those who have no such moral qualms, those who do not care about the collective's definition of morality at all. So, while the noble-hearted hesitate, bound by a morality that encourages passivity, those who embrace the morality of the sovereign soul or a corrupted, egoic version of it take control. In a world where hesitation equals defeat, the results are inevitable. The ruthless rise because the virtuous have been taught that rising is a sin. So, what does this divine revelation mean for you, the awakening soul? Should we abandon morality entirely and embrace the ruthless path to power? Must we become the very thing we despise in order to survive and thrive? Number, that is to remain trapped in the duality. The true path, the path of the ascended being, is to find a third way. Is there another way to reconcile strength and virtue, to wield power without being corrupted by it? To answer that, we must look deeper into the psychology of those who rise, the ones who refuse to be victims of circumstance. Picture a vast, untamed wilderness. In this world, survival is not about fairness or kindness. It is about strength, adaptability, and the unwavering willingness to do whatever it takes to endure and to flourish. The lion does not ask the gazelle for permission to hunt. The storm does not apologize for its destructive power. Nature does not reward a morality of submission. It rewards those who can endure, those who can adapt, and those who can dominate their environment. Human society, beneath its thin veneer of laws and social contracts, is no different. The primal battle for survival and influence still rages. Those who rise to power, in any field, often share a defining trait, a form of ruthlessness. Not necessarily cruelty, but the ability to act decisively, unburdened by hesitation or guilt. This is not an accident of personality. It is an evolutionary adaptation. It is a mechanism that has allowed individuals and empires alike to seize control in a world that does not wait for the hesitant. Psychologists have long studied the traits that predict success in competitive environments. Time and time again, we see the same patterns emerge. High levels of ambition, a low sensitivity to fear, and perhaps, most controversially, a reduced sense of empathy for those who stand in their way. This does not mean that all powerful people are psychopaths, but it does mean that many of them possess the psychological wiring that allows them to act without the emotional constraints that hold others back. Consider the great leaders, the revolutionary entrepreneurs, the world-shaping conquerors who have reshaped history. From Julius Caesar to modern business moguls, the pattern is clear. Hesitation is a liability. And power is taken, not given. The strongest among us do not wait for permission to lead. They step forward, they take calculated risks, and they face the consequences later. This is why the ruthless so often rise, while the hesitant remain in the shadows. But here is the paradox that they so often miss. Ruthlessness alone is not enough. Those who wield power without wisdom, without a larger vision, often face spectacular downfalls. The same qualities that allow a person to climb to the top can also be their undoing. A leader who rules through fear alone will eventually be consumed by the very forces they once controlled. History is littered with the ruins of tyrants who believed they were invincible, until they weren't. Their power, built on the fragile foundation of exploitation, was not true power at all. So, if power is often seized by the ruthless, does this mean that morality and fairness are doomed to fail? Not necessarily. But to understand why, we need to challenge one of the greatest illusions of modern society, the belief that the world is fair. This is known as the just world fallacy, the comforting but dangerous cognitive bias that makes us believe that people get what they deserve. From childhood, we are told a story, that good people are rewarded and that justice will always prevail. Our fairy tales, our religious teachings, and our moral philosophies all reinforce this belief. But then, as we step into the raw reality of life, a brutal contradiction emerges. The hardest workers are not always the wealthiest. The most honest do not always lead. The kindest hearts are often the most broken. This disconnect is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. The idea of fairness is, in many ways, a social construct, a narrative designed to maintain order rather than to reflect reality. It is a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Power and success are not handed out based on merit alone. They are taken, they are fought for, and they are often hoarded by those who understand the game better than others. This belief in a just world is dangerous because it encourages passivity. If we assume that goodness alone will lead to success, we risk ignoring the realities of competition, strategy, and power dynamics. And while we wait for some cosmic justice to intervene, those who do not share our illusions are already moving forward, shaping the world to their will. But does this mean morality is meaningless? Should we abandon all principles in the pursuit of power? Not quite. The key is to understand the game without becoming a slave to it. The souls who suffer the most are often those who believe that simply playing nice will be enough. But those who learn to balance integrity with strategic thinking, who combine kindness with strength, they are the ones who rewrite the rules. The truth is this: fairness is not something we can expect. It is something we must create, and that requires power. Nietzsche saw this struggle as a fundamental part of human existence. His answer was not to surrender to the illusion of fairness, nor to become mindlessly ruthless. Instead, he pointed to something higher, a way to transcend both weakness and cruelty. To understand this, we must explore one of his most revolutionary ideas, the Übermensch, or the overman. This is the individual who rises beyond morality, beyond illusions, and beyond limitations. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast abyss. Behind you lies the world as it is, filled with injustice, limitations, and the oppressive weight of convention. Before you lies the unknown, a path only the bold dare to walk. Most will hesitate, shackled by fear and doubt, but a few will take the leap. These are the individuals who rise above the masses, who forge their own path, who redefine power on their own terms. Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch is not about brute strength or blind domination. It is about self-overcoming. The Übermensch is someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstances, who does not accept imposed morality without question, and who shapes their own destiny instead of conforming to the expectations of others. At the heart of the Übermensch is the will to power. Unlike the passive morality of submission and guilt, the will to power is about embracing one's deepest instincts to create, to transform, to impose meaning upon a meaningless world. It is not about control over others, but control over oneself. While the weak are trapped by fear, the Übermensch moves forward, untethered from societal illusions. But here's the key. The Übermensch is not ruthless for the sake of cruelty. Unlike the tyrants and manipulators who seize power out of insecurity, the Übermensch does not need validation. Their strength comes from within. They do not rely on deception or oppression because their power is self-generated, independent of external approval or fleeting success. This is why the worst people may rise to power, but they will never truly transcend. The ruthless play a temporary game, climbing through manipulation and force. But the Übermensch plays the infinite game, building something greater than themselves. They are creators, not just takers. So, how do we embody this? How do we navigate a world that rewards the ruthless while refusing to become one of them? The answer lies in understanding power, not as a weapon, but as a tool. The next step is learning how to compete in a world that does not wait for the kind-hearted. Picture this. You are in a high-stakes game where the rules are written by those who play to win at any cost. If you hesitate, if you assume fairness will protect you, you lose. This is the reality many face in business, politics, and life itself. The ruthless know this. They take what they want. But does this mean you must become like them to survive? Not necessarily. The mistake most people make is believing they only have two choices: be ruthless or be a victim. But there is a third path, one that blends strategic thinking with integrity, one that allows you to compete without losing your soul. Nietzsche's philosophy wasn't about blind domination. It was about transcending weakness while maintaining authenticity. The key is understanding power without being enslaved by it. Here's how. One of the biggest weaknesses people have is their belief that life should be fair. It shouldn't. It never was. The strongest competitors accept this early on. They don't waste time complaining about injustice. They learn the rules of the game and use them to their advantage. This doesn't mean abandoning ethics. It means recognizing that power is neutral, and those who understand it wield it best. Many fail because they assume kindness alone will bring them success, but power is rarely given. It is taken. That doesn't mean becoming cruel, but it does mean understanding the minds of those who seek to exploit you. Strategic empathy means reading people deeply, recognizing their motives, and anticipating their moves. It allows you to navigate deception without becoming deceptive yourself. Most people are controlled by fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. The Übermensch, however, develops internal power. This means embracing discomfort, taking risks, and forging your own path despite opposition. The most successful people do not ask for permission. They create opportunities where none exist. There is a difference between mindless ruthlessness and controlled ruthlessness. The first is destruction without purpose. The second is the ability to make hard choices without hesitation. Sometimes, power requires walking away from toxic relationships, making unpopular decisions, or confronting uncomfortable truths. This is not cruelty, it is strength. The key is knowing when and how to apply it. The ruthless often rise fast, but they also fall hard. Why? Because their power is built on exploitation, not creation. The true Übermensch builds whether it's a business, an idea, a movement, or a personal transformation. When you create value, you become indispensable. You do not need to manipulate because your power is earned, not stolen. So, can you succeed in a world that rewards the ruthless? Absolutely, but only if you stop playing by the old rules. Stop expecting fairness and start mastering power on your own terms. But this brings us to the ultimate question. Is power itself evil, or is it simply misunderstood? Power is the force that drives the world, shaping the lives of those who possess it and those who are at its mercy. But is it inherently evil? Nietzsche's exploration of power wasn't just about domination, it was about creation. The drive to acquire power, according to Nietzsche, is often misunderstood. It's not about crushing others beneath your boot. It's about surpassing yourself, about transcending the limitations of the current moment and becoming more than you ever imagined. Yet, throughout history, power has often been linked to corruption. We've seen countless leaders who, once they gain the reins, fall prey to ego, greed, and tyranny. This paradox leaves us wondering, is power evil, or does it simply expose the worst parts of human nature? Nietzsche argued that power in its purest form isn't about harming others. It's about overcoming oneself, striving for greatness, and creating new values, not succumbing to the moralities imposed by society. However, society's moral compass often makes power seem corrupt. In a world where virtue is championed, the individual who seeks power is often viewed with suspicion. But what if this is a misunderstanding? What if, by rejecting conventional morality and creating your own rules, you are simply embodying the truest form of life, one that is raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic? Nietzsche didn't see the will to power as a simple desire for control over others. It was an inner force, a drive to live more fully, to explore the limits of your potential. In this light, power becomes an ethical pursuit, one that challenges you to break free from societal constraints and to define your existence on your own terms. But does this mean that everyone who seeks power is virtuous? Not necessarily. The path to power can be a double-edged sword, leading one either to enlightenment or to destruction. The difference lies in the intent. Is the quest for power a means to impose your will on others, or is it a process of self-overcoming, of crafting a reality that aligns with your highest aspirations? So, is power evil? Not inherently. It's a tool, one that when wielded by a person of integrity can lead to unimaginable greatness. But when used for selfish gain or to oppress others, it reveals the darker aspects of human nature. Nietzsche's challenge to us is to rethink power, not as something to fear, but as something to master through discipline, strength, and an unwavering commitment to becoming more than we are today. If this exploration of power and success has made you think, challenged your assumptions, and sparked a deeper curiosity about life and philosophy, then make sure to subscribe to the Mirror of Being channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with those who need to hear this truth, and stay tuned for new content every day. Together, let's continue the journey toward understanding, growth, and the pursuit of a more powerful life.